Okay, so get this. We're diving into a haunting this time, a story that really chills you to the bone, and I know you'll have a good ghost story. So this one, The Haunting of the Ederescu House. It's got it all, true crime, paranormal, you name it.
It's that blend of familiar and unsettling, not just a haunted house, but how cultures shape fear itself.
Exactly. And our narrator, Jacob, he's no stranger to creepy.
Right.
He finds locations for those paranormal shows.
Yeah.
This Ederescu house, farmhouse in Indiana, it's like it's calling him, even though online there's barely anything about it.
Adds to the mystery, right? The unknown. But also think about it. A town founded by Romanians, they brought their own folklore. It's like a haunting in Indiana wouldn't be the same as one in Transylvania.
And that's where it gets really wild, because this isn't just any ghost. This story hints at something ancient, sinister, tied to Romanian lore, a strigoi.
Not your average ghost, that's for sure. Imagine something feeding on the living but born from a person's death. In Romanian folklore, a strigoi comes about when death rituals are messed up like suicide.
Okay, now that's primal fear right there.
Hmm.
The idea that death went wrong and now this vengeful being is stuck. Seeking what revenge? Peace.
Exactly. And that fear of the restless dead, it's universal vampires, vengeful spirits, ghosts wanting closure, all from that fear of what if death is at the end. The story uses the strigoi, but it's tapping into something bigger, more unsettling.
And it gets worse for our guy because we learn about the Ederescu family tragedy that started it all. Like a true crime documentary makes you question how dark people can be. This is where the story sets up the encounter by going through the crime itself.
Right. Setting the stage, literally. We meet Omar, the dad consumed by rage alcohol. He murders his wife and son in their home. Then guilt takes over. He ends his own life.
Brutal. And the story doesn't hold back. But it's fascinating how these details connect to the lore. The strigoi Omar's brother, Stefan. He's terrified about what happens if Omar isn't buried properly.
And here come those cultural beliefs, how a society deals with death rituals, traditions. It all shapes their view of the afterlife. And more importantly, what happens when those rituals are ignored. It's like you can feel the fear in the story. They hold a wake for the wife Isabella and the son Wilhelm, covering mirrors, putting coins in their hands. It's not just for show.
Makes you think about other traditions. Like my grandma used to say, cover the clocks when someone dies. Always seems strange, but now in this story makes you wonder about those roots.
Absolutely. Those details show they believe life and death are close, easily crossed. When the rituals, the safeguards are ignored, well, that's when things go bad.
And that's what happens with Omar berate fast, unconsecrated ground, face down, garlic in his mouth. It's like they're trying to pin his spirit down.
Desperate to stop him becoming a strigoi. And that even without knowing Romanian stuff, it's a universal fear. The restless dead. The story uses culture to explore these bigger anxieties.
It's like a mirror.
Yeah.
We see their fear and we face our own ideas about what's after death. As creepy as the backstory is, it's just setting us up for when he gets inside the house. It's like we go from history to this real scary experience.
And the author nails it. The sensory details, especially the smell, it's brilliant.
Right. Not just what he sees, hears, but smells. This stench he'd only smelled once before in the Paris catacombs. Talk about setting the mood.
Smell is powerful. Triggers memory emotion, bypasses logic straight to primal instinct. Works so well in horror, don't you think?
Oh, totally. You can read about a creepy sound, but a smell described, well, you almost smell it. And it gets worse. The temperature drops and we get to the haunting, the actual events.
And it plays with what we expect, especially with tech. You'd think a paranormal guy would be ready, right? But his equipment confirms activity, then breaks down at the worst times.
Yeah. EMF readers going crazy, EVP recordings. But camera dies, batteries drained. It's like even the tools we use to understand the world can't be trusted. That isolation, not relying on anything terrifying. And this is where it goes from creepy to, oh my God, I'm out of here. Because it's not just the equipment or the cold spots,
It's how it gets worse. The story slowly builds the tension. Subtle at first, doors, opening things, moving. Then bam, more aggressive.
When those kitchen cabinets start slamming, I felt the pit in my stomach. Like something's messing with him on purpose.
That primal fear, right? The unseen something playing with us, pushing those boundaries. And it goes further, too. This isn't just sounds or things moving. It gets physical.
This is what got me the attack. He feels like fingers around his throat, invisible, but there's a rage directed at him. It's like even though Jacob wasn't there for the original tragedy, his strigoi blames him, sees him as a threat. So creepy.
And it's smart how the author ties it back to Omar's life, his sins almost.
You mean the smell? That awful stench from before it gets stronger during the attack. He even says it's like burning flesh from his time in the Iraq War.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not just random scares. It's all connected, adding to the horror. Not just a ghost, but Omar's rage, his guilt, maybe even how he died, all wrapped up in it.
And Just when you think it can't get worse, that ending, Jacob barely gets out alive, runs from the house in the dark, leaves everything behind.
Fight or flight logic goes out the window. He's facing something unexplainable, pure survival instinct.
But he doesn't just run and hide. He goes back, and to stop it, he burns the Ederescu house down. Extreme, but you almost feel good about it, you know? Like, wipe it out completely.
Powerful moment. Makes you think, did he do the right thing? Did he end it or just unleash it somehow?
In that last line, he senses the ghost in his own house, even after the fire. That's the stuff that sticks with you.
Like, you can't outrun some things. Our fears, what we believe they affect us, shape us more than we know.
Makes you think twice about running from your problems. This deep dive was a trip, a scary story, but also about folklore fear. How strong belief can be. If you're anything like me, you'll be thinking about this one for a while.